All right, welcome to Talkin' Investing. I am Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to go through a big picture look at the exahash rate of each of the Bitcoin miners. There's been a drastic reduction in the amount of planned exahash by these companies from where they were in the early part of the year to where they are right now. This has a massive effect because you're going to see the total amount of exahash that these companies were planning on adding was drastic. It would have doubled the worldwide exahash rate. I want to look in and revisit where we started this year, where we are right now, and where these companies think they're going to go for the rest of the year. This took forever to put together, so if this is the kind of information that you guys like, please remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Also, if everybody could smash the like button, I really would appreciate it. It helps the channel out a lot. Okay, let's get into what's going on. This is a chart that I put together of the targeted exahash rate by the end of the first quarter 2023. The first thing is Eni. Eni was planning on having 32 exahash. A lot of you guys probably remember the whole new miner situation. Everybody did a lot of videos on this when it came out. Obviously, 32 exahash was a stunning press release, and I immediately that day put out a video that this made no sense to me. I did not believe it to be true. And it turns out that it is not true, but I think this press release right here was the absolute peak of the frenzy. This was February 3rd, 2022. So while Bitcoin was off of its highs, it had not yet started to really take the dive that it took. And companies were still trying to ramp up. There was still an exahash race going on at that point. All of this quickly changed. Within the next 30 to 60 days, the entire industry was in the opposite position. I'm just going to show you a few more press releases to just kind of show you guys where I got this information from. Okay, this is Marathon. So Marathon put this out in May of 2021. So this light blue line right here says mid-2022. So you'll see that that was dramatically incorrect. They mined 73 Bitcoin in the month of July. So they were expecting to be at 13.3 exahash. That would have put them somewhere between mining about 1,500 to 2,000 Bitcoin. Okay, here's Cypher. They put this out in October of 2021. Cypher Mining announces agreement to purchase 28,000 to 56,000 Bitfury next generation mining rigs. Agreement brings the aggregate hash rate of mining rigs under contract to between 13.8 and 19.2 exahash. Now, to put it in perspective, Cypher is very much closer to zero than they are to 13.8 or 19 exahash. Okay, so this is Iris Energy. This was their January update. By the end of Q1 of 2023, they expected to be just under 9.8 exahash, and then shortly thereafter, they expected to be at 15.15 exahash. So, okay, so that is just a sample of some of the press releases and company presentations and that kind of stuff that I went through to find all of this information. Okay, so just to put this in perspective, the chart that I just showed you, all of that adds up to 182 exahash per second. So that is where these companies expected to be based on their press releases over the first 3 to 6 months of the year. At December 31st, so effectively on January 1st of 2022, all of these companies put together were at a total of 29.6 exahash. So they were looking to get from 29.6 to 182 exahash. That's a 515% increase in their total exahash. And again, this is roughly what the world's entire exahash for Bitcoin was at that time. Okay, this schedule is comparing those targeted exahashes that we just looked at versus each company's actual exahash as of July 31st, 2022. Eni, as it turns out, they have now reduced. So they were expecting to get to 32 exahash. They're at 0.1 exahash. And you're going to see when we look at the new updates, they have had to drastically revise their estimates. Marathon's at 0.7 exahash. They were expecting to be at 23.3 by the end of the year. And again, by now they were expecting to have been at 13.3. We looked at that chart. So Marathon has had a series of setbacks and difficulties and issues. So I do expect that they're going to ramp up dramatically from this 0.7 exahash that they're at right now. Again, they mined 73 Bitcoin in the month of July. So I think by the end of the year, you're going to see some very drastically different numbers. However, I think that this 23.3, they've now pushed that off. It's still their target, but they've now pushed that off into the future. They no longer expect to get there, in early 2023. Core Scientific has actually made more progress than anybody as far as exahash goes. So their plan was to get to 21 self-mining exahash. They're at 10.9 right now, so they're almost halfway there. That's actually, I think, one of the better performing companies versus their expectations. You'll see Cypher, which talked about 19.2 exahash. Well, they're at 0.6 exahash. So Riot wanted to get to 12.8. They're at 4.2. There were 2 or 3 of these where I used an average because they never came out and actually said it. So CleanSpark, I used an average of 12.0 because they talked about getting to 20 by the end of 2023. So they really didn't give a 2022 goal. Iris Energy was looking to get to 10. We looked at their press release. They were looking to get to 10 by the end of the year and then quickly get to 15 from there. They are at 1.1 right now. They just put a press release out that in August and September, they expect gigantic increases in their exahash. So we'll keep our eye on this one and see if they start to catch up to this. Bitfarms is at 3.8. They wanted to get to 8.0. Stronghold wanted to get to 8.0 as well. Well, they've had a dramatic series of events in their plans. So they are at 1.4, and we're going to look, they've drastically reduced their plans. This is now comparing their original exahash plans to their latest and greatest revised plans. Almost every single company, actually every single company, with the exception of Hive Blockchain, has reduced their goal for exahash, some of them quite considerably. So we'll start out with any, and I really don't even track any anymore. So it looks like by the end of the year, maybe 1 exahash versus 32. Marathon, I will tell you, I used an estimate. So they are saying that they want to get to 23.3 exahash sometime later in the year 2023. They're currently less than 1 exahash. So I gave them the benefit of the doubt in saying that, in my opinion, maybe they could get to 9 by the end of the year. Core Scientific has slightly reduced their plans. They were anticipating getting to 21 exahash. Now they've changed that to 16.9. So that's not a dramatic decrease. That's one of the better decreases. There were 4 or 5 of these companies that stuck pretty close to plan. So Core Scientific, I think, is one of them. Cypher, you'll see, has drastically had to reduce their plan. Their latest and greatest investor presentation now says they're targeting about 6.9 exahash, not 19.2 exahash. Some other major dramatic changes is Stronghold, you can see, was targeting 8 exahash. They are now targeting 1.4 exahash. They had to give back most of their machines, so they are now a different company. Their plans have changed drastically from 8 down to 1.4. This is a dramatic change. Also, Mawson had a pretty dramatic change. They were targeting 5.5 exahash by the end of the year. They're now targeting 2.3 exahash. There are some companies like Bitfarm. They were planning on 8.0 and they've reduced that to 6.0. So that is not a drastic reduction, and it seems like they're on plan. So companies like Core Scientific have had dramatic increases. Bitfarms has had nice increases. Iris Energy, it looks like they're going to have some nice increases this year. So some of these companies, Hive is still targeting their same target as they were at the beginning of the year. However, I will caution that a part of that is in Ethereum, and the merge may have an impact on these numbers. Hut 8 had a pretty big pullback. They were talking about 6 exahash all year long, and they have now decided that they want to stop at 3.5 exahash and reassess from there based on the massive changes in market conditions. So just to take a look at some of these big picture numbers and give you a bottom line. Coming into the year, all of these miners put together were at 29.6 exahash. They are currently right now, as of July 31st, at 40.2 exahash. So they've increased in total 36%. And you'll see, obviously, not all the same. Some have done very well. Some actually have reduced in exahash. They expected to have a 515% increase. We're about halfway to the finish line, so they should be, theoretically halfway there, or even a quarter of the way there. But you can see they're not even 10% of the way to that goal yet. So you can see they now all have revised goals. This 182 exahash that they were targeting, they have now revised down to just under 88 exahash by Q1 2022. So that would be to go from just under 30 to approximately 88. That's almost a 200% increase. So that's the latest and greatest plans. We'll see if they can get to this because, again, they're only at a 36% increase right now. So can everybody accelerate in the second half of the year? That is what they all say they're going to do. So I would say the first half of the year was a big letdown versus the plans that we heard about, but obviously the situation changed dramatically. Bitcoin pulled back significantly off of its highs, and really the liquidity dried up for this industry, so everybody was forced to change their plans and focus more on liquidity than growth. So it was more of a survival mode. It seems like maybe we're starting to move out of that. Let's see what we can do for the second half of the year. But I wanted to check in here at about the halfway point because we're unbelievably drastically off of where we thought we were going to be at this point, 6 or 8 months ago. So that's an overall look at the picture. I will try to update this on maybe a monthly basis and see how these guys are doing versus their plan. Are they changing their plans? Are they keeping up with their plans? That's what's happened to the Bitcoin mining industry so far this year. If you made it this far, remember to subscribe to the channel and smash the like button. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.